Good afternoon. It is day 3 here at the Greater Niagara Fishing Expo, and this is our second segment of the day. We are on the floor of the Greater Niagara Fishing Expo, and I'm joined here by Nick Socolowski. Nick, how you doing?
Doing good.
Great.
Good.
We had you on last year, and had to have you on again this year to talk some meat.
Yeah. No, it's been a great show. I love seeing faces from last year, and networking with more anglers that haven't tried our product. So it's great to come out to these shows and really get the product in their hands. They see it online, but they just haven't got it in their hands. So.
Yeah.
The prime cut to meat body spoon. So it's first in the industry where you're having your spoon style, but you're also having your meat pattern. So you're allowing to combine those two into one product now. And the anglers from all across the Great Lakes have had great success. And this year we're going to be doing a lot more in-depth videos on the water, because a lot of anglers, sometimes struggle with how to run them, how to tune them and stuff. So this year we're really taking that next step to get a lot of good content out there for anglers to pick up on.
Yeah. You were showing somebody, I was over in your booth a little while ago, just how you rig these.
Yep.
And I mean, I've been on the boat with a lot of guys, they use the toothpick.
Yep.
So with what you're doing though is something a little bit different. Tell us about that.
So originally we started with the toothpick, which that method still works good. The only problem we've seen is you got a metal tab rubbing on a toothpick. Over time you're going to end up breaking it off, or you're going to have a big salmon thrash in his head and you're going to break it out. So this method that we ran last year that we're now really pushing this year is using a 22 gauge copper wire or any type of just thin metal wire that's going to fit through your meat head and through the prime cut. So you're going to actually just form like a bread tie through the head, and then you're going to fold the bread tie over on the inside of the meat. Yeah. The nice part about that is no matter how hard that salmon's thrashing, you're never going to pull that meat head out of the head itself. So, or meat bait out of the head. So we noticed last year, no anglers were losing baits because it's an investment. Guys are spending $10 a strip. These last for 10 plus kings, so you don't want the first king to just throw it out of the bait head and now you're baitless. So so that's one method we've been really pushing this year at the show, so guys can keep their baits longer, lasting longer for the kings. Yeah.
Well, tell me about what you got going on here. How your product works.
Yep. So our product rigs up in every style meathead in the industry. So it doesn't matter what bait head you're using, it's going to work. What I like to tell everybody is when it comes out of the package, it's going to be a straight bait, and you got to tune it. And I've had a lot of guys come and say, I just put it in the head and I'm not getting the good action. So when you put it in your bait head and you lock that in with that bread tie or toothpick, your choice, you're going to put your 2 fingers together. So you put your 2 fingers together and you're going to kind of massage the bait going down to the tail end while you're also applying pressure on the meat head. And that's going to give it that perfect kind of half moon bend to it. It's just a nice subtle bend. You don't need to do a super heavy bend, but just subtle enough to where you're getting that nice rotation. That subtle bend also, whether you're running at 2.0 all the way up to 3.0, that bait's going to still be performing really nice while you're trolling it.
Yeah. So when guys just kind of dump this over the side, they're taking a look at how it's running next to the boat. What should it look like?
So I would say when you're dumping it off the side of the boat, you're going to want to have that, I call it like a roll kick. You're going to see it every second and a half doing a spin and then a hard kick on the tail. And that's been the same from fast trolling to slow trolling. There are guys that like to do a different style bend. So if you do that light half moon bend, you're going to come right to the tail end of the tab, and you're going to kind of pinch it hard, and it's going to give it kind of an extra 20-degree bend off of that tail. And that's going to kind of give it more of a spoon kick. So it's going to kick, but it's going to do a loop, but then it'll kind of come back and jog back the opposite way. So it's pretty cool how it kind of gives it a little more erratic action to it, especially if you get kings that are following the bait for a long period of time. You kind of put a different bend on that tab and just shows them something a little different. You end up getting those extra bites throughout the morning or day.
Is that something maybe you'd run? I mean, you can experiment with your bend when you're out fishing and just see what works best.
Yeah, because there's guys that do a sharp bend because they want a really tight roll. So they're going to bend it really tight to just get that hard kick fast. Guys will just put a hair bend to get kind of a subtle kick to it. So it's all trial and error. Everybody, as you know, fishes different on the Great Lakes. Some bait bends work better than other boats. So, you know, it's all experimental. It's what you feel confident in running, is what I would say.
How about colors? What do you have for different colors?
So color options, all of our baits, I think we have 20 plus colors out there, and all the colors have been proven on the Great Lakes, from your bright chartreuse, your crush glow patterns, like a couple new colors, and new kind of patterns that we've had on old patterns. For instance, like this is our swamp frog. So when we released this originally, it was black sticker dots. So now we're doing the custom airbrush patterns, which guys are loving at the show, because we know salmon guys, they love
green with black dots. Yeah.
So another one, our crushed glow green dot. This bait's actually very special. So this last fall, Team Salmonella won the Lock Derby, Fall Derby, took the first place spot on this spoon tab. So, you know, that's a huge accomplishment for, you know, an up and coming company like ourselves, to get that first place win on Lake Ontario. So from their win, we gave them the option of, like, you know, hooking them up with baits, or you guys want to design your own prime cut. So they came out with Salmonella, but an Angry Bird prime cut. So that's new for the 2025 season. This should be in most retailers here within the next month for sale. So we'll be pretty busy getting those inventories filled.
What retailers are you in?
So a lot of the retailers out of Pulaski, New York, you know, Sonny's Fishing Center, Fat Nancy's, Woody's Tackle, All Seasons. I'm sure I forgot one. Couple Western New York shops are going to hopefully be getting on board with us. Fish USA. Fish USA just took our whole line of products on, and actually before I got out to the show, their order is shipped, so they're going to have them in stock here this next week, available for sale. So yeah, we're pretty excited about Fish USA, and you know, our retailers that we started with. I mean, we love all of our retailers. We try to give everybody as much business as we can, and the relationships all across the lake. That's what I enjoy about this business.
Yeah. Are you selling on your own website?
Yep, we do sell at socobaits.com. But we always tell guys that buy our products, you know, go to our retailers first. Send them the business. If for some reason they don't have it, or then come to us. But always go to those guys first before you make a purchase online with us.
Yeah, but if you got a guy, let's say you got somebody watching from Lake Michigan or something right now that's watching this, they want to try out your stuff. Yeah. You know, they can go to Fish USA, they can go to your website. But yeah, I mean, you know, if you're on Lake Ontario, you can get to a store that has it, definitely do that. But, you know, I just want people that are maybe outside of the Lake Ontario area to be able to get an opportunity to use what you got going.
And, you know, and that's where, like, with Fish USA, getting on board with those guys, you know, that's going to help us reach the farther markets out, you know, Lake Michigan and all the other Great Lakes heading west. Even on the West Coast, you know, they have a big market out there. So that's going to definitely help guys get these baits in their hands fast. And, yeah, we're looking forward to having that account this year and working with those guys. Yeah.
You got an opportunity this weekend to talk to everybody here. What's been the feedback here at the show with the people you've had a chance to talk to?
Yeah, so feedback, a lot of return customers, you know, guys that first bought the bait last show, and they come out and they're like, hey, these 3 patterns were killer on our boat. And, you know, and they restocked over the summer months and stuff. But when they come here, you know, it's hard to pass up buying tackle when you're at a location like this. So a lot of guys are getting their pre-tackle, and yeah, but great success with our products, you know, and that's where I think the feedback also, when it came to guys running it, they're still seeing or learning helpful tips and tricks on running the prime cut, and that's where the videos this summer are gonna really help out that market.
Yeah, you definitely should do that and get that stuff out there. Something else I saw when I was over at your booth, you're also doing some panfish plastics too.
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
So we got our So we got our crazy eyes. So it's a synthetic perch eye. We make it in a 1/4 inch and a half. We also have hammerhead grub body. So the crazy eyes are great for, ice fishing, springtime and fall. I mean, guys look at it as an ice fishing bait. We use them all season long. No matter if you got perch, crappies, bluegills biting, these baits are going to work. And what I was showing you, Chris, was the jig and wraps, the jig and wrap method. So if you have, say, like the 1/4 inch crazy eye or even like the 1/2 inch, what we like to do is take the bottom treble off of the jig and wrap, remove it, and then you're going to actually place that crazy eye over top of the main hook shank. So it's center of the 3 hook points. Put it back on your jig and wrap, and now you have it dresses up the bottom of the bait a lot better than just having a plain hook. So, and guys run that on jig and wraps and also buckshot spoons, those style spoons in the industry as well.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about your fishing. You do some fishing too. You're an East Ender, right?
Yep, East Ender. I charter on Oneida Lake's my home lake.
Okay.
Oswego's my home port, but I jump from like Mexico Bay to Oswego for that, and I also do lake trout and perch on Cayuga Lake. So kind of jump around to a couple lakes. It keeps everything fresh. It keeps me on my toes, especially when the bite windows could be a little tough. So I'm usually Ontario, Oneida, and maybe Cayuga. So it's always jumping one after another.
Yeah. That Cayuga lake trout thing.
Yeah, it's a blast.
That looks like fun.
It is. If you haven't, guys always think of lake trout when we're trolling them. They come up, they're easy. You're just cranking on the reel, but you put a medium action rod jigging in 180 foot of water with a 1 ounce jig, they overpower you at that point. So, and clients that I've had out the past couple of years, their first initial thought is like, no, I don't want to go for lake trout. I'm like, no, you haven't tried the jigging yet. So, and now they're hooked. Every year they're like, put us down for the same date. So, and this year, it's going to be a little different on my charters, especially on Cayuga. So typically we would just run lake trout trips, but the perch fishery is so phenomenal. I'm giving the clients the option like, hey, do you guys want to jig Lakers for 2 or 3 hours? And then we'll go to the north end and we'll hammer on some perch. And who doesn't want to bring home a cooler full of big yellow perch? So it's been it was good last spring. All my clients love that. This year, pretty much that's how we're going to be running it.
Yeah, you start wrestling with those Lakers for a couple hours, you're probably ready to go. Go catch some perch. Especially when they've had 50, 60 hookups by 8:30, 9 o'clock. I'm like, let's go for perch. So it's fun though. It's a good mix. Yeah. Tell me about fishing Mexico Bay.
Yeah, so Mexico Bay, I go out of there. I go out of Oswego. It all depends on the wind. I run a 23-foot crest liner, so I'm not like the 31-foot tiara guys, out there handling the big 6-7 footers. But the boat handles good waves. But yeah, I mainly go out of there for spring browns when that bite's going on. Casey Prisco, he's usually giving me a good report on the action because I'm out there maybe twice a week compared to the other guys that, they're running every day, multiple trips. So, those guys help me out a lot, get dialed into a pattern quick. And, I always try to form my own pattern, but it's tough to break some of the just true patterns that work on that east end of the lake. But yeah, no, I enjoy brown fishing. Springtime fishing's always fun because I'm jumping all over, and the perch, the brown trout, lake trout. It's a great mix of fish. Yeah.
Tell me about that brown trout bite. Like, when does it get going? How are you targeting them?
Yeah, so I typically, like last year, we were starting early February. It was springtime in February. So I try to get out there starting like late March because my boat stays in my garage all winter. So the minute I could get my boat launched, we're going for browns. And, we start with our spoon patterns, typically running like short, shallow crankbaits, doing a mix of stuff, 5 to 15 foot of water. So mid-March is when I like to start, and I'll run brown trout trips right up until the end of April. And once walleye opens up in May, that's where I kind of shift gears to Oneida Lake.
Gotcha. I was out fishing with Casey, I don't know, must have been 4 or 5 years ago, and we went out in July and found those browns. Had a great day fishing browns in late July. We were out obviously in deeper water, but right out in front of Oswego. And
And that's something this year I got to dial myself into. So spring browns I'm great on. I can go out. We can have a good spring brown bite. When it comes summertime, I'm typically targeting the kings, but the brown trout this year I'm really going to focus in on and try to dial them in.
But you got a fan here. Chris Sayas is Soco baits or nothing. Only time I catch fish is when I'm on Nick's boat.
My boy Chris.
Yeah, so it's good to have fans and friends out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Me and Chris, we went to school together, and this past year, me and him took a trip out to Lake Erie. I had to show him what that bite was all about, and he's addicted.
Yeah. Where'd you guys go out of Lake Erie?
We went out of Dunkirk.
Okay.
Dunkirk was where we went out. So springtime, I went out of Lorain, Avon Lake, Ohio. So that was my first time with my boat out there. Phenomenal fishery. I'm hooked. It'll probably be 4 trips out there this year. So, but yeah, we went out of Ohio, and then as that migration of fish pushed up into New York waters, I mean, we were fishing, I think, 100 foot of water for the walleyes, which is the deepest I've ever fished walleyes. Is we were putting our downriggers at like 85 feet down. We were running B hammer tackle harness rigs. He's another local guy out of the Oneida Lake area, makes phenomenal walleye rigs, and the only ones I run on the boat casting wise and trolling wise. But yeah, we were sending those 60 feet off the downriggers. Seemed like our better bites on Lake Erie were coming off of like keeping those baits a little bit farther off the riggers. So it was a fun trip with Chris. But
yeah, I fished with Craig Sleeman out there. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago out of Dunkirk, and being a Minnesota guy where we're used to fishing walleyes on rock piles and 20 feet of water, to go out and you're fishing over 85 and the walleyes are at 60 and you're like, this is crazy.
You know, and Craig, and I talked to Craig before going out to Dunkirk, and I mean, good friend of mine, he hooks me up with, you know, the local knowledge and stuff, and any question I had, Craig was there to answer it. And you know, it took us maybe, I would say, like 2 hours to get dialed in, because deep water fishing, I'm like, all right, like I fish kings in deep water, but I'm just dialing in my walleyes. But once we got them dialed, it was rods were just one after another firing. So it's a good time.
When were you out there?
We went out August 15th. We were out of Dunkirk. And we had a lot of good smelt balls down there in the deep water. Ohio, we were out in I think the second week of May. We were out of Ohio waters. So sorry. But yeah, no, it's a great fishery. I enjoy it. It's a change of pace from Oneida.
Yeah. So you're going to Erie. Where else you got? What's on your list for this year? Where else are you going to go fishing?
I think that's about it.
Yeah,
Lake Erie. Lake Erie I'm addicted to now.
Well, you've got some great stuff around you where you're at with Cayuga and the other lakes around you, and of course being right there on Lake Ontario. It's a great bite, and you can get out. And,
I mean, within an hour of drive time, I mean, you're fishing world-class waterways. So you know, we're smack dab in the middle of some great fishing, and you know, I like traveling outside of that scope every once in a while.
Yeah. So you got some walleye stuff coming then?
Not right now.
Not right now.
No.
Are we working on it?
Possibly.
Yeah.
We got some things in the work. We just got some other stuff going in play right now.
Yeah. So maybe you'll have some SoCo walleye stuff coming up pretty soon.
It would definitely be on the soft plastic end. Things that rig up on, you know, worm harness rigs, like crawler rigs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what you do as far as testing. If you're working on stuff with the prime cut, you know, what does that testing look like?
Yeah, so when it comes to, like, you're talking like patterns and stuff, so we try to get the captains involved. And you know, they're our main, like, eyes and ears on the waters. They're out there every day. So I'll go to captains and I'll be like, hey, like, do you guys have a specific color you like to run, or, you know, what do you want to see in a prime cut form? And that's where, you know, we'll make up half a dozen baits. We'll get them to some, like, knowledgeable captains in the area that we work with. They run them. It's either a yay or a nay. And if they say, hey, we crushed them on this, all right, we'll roll that into the following season. So testing, you know, it comes down to just what the captains want to see in a in a spoon, but also in the meat body aspect.
Yeah. So we're not doing walleyes right away.
No.
Anything else new coming up that you can tell me about?
Right now we're kind of this year with the with what we plan to do with the current products we have. I think all of our new stuff, future up and coming stuff, would be in the following year, and that's when it comes down to. So our prime cut, for instance, is 5 1/8 inch. This show, I've had a lot of guys asking, are we going to be coming out with a smaller prime cut? And, you know, this has been kind of in talk the past, I would say 2 years, 3 years with a couple other captains back at home. You know, guys like running, you know, smaller baits, especially if they're fishing around smaller schools of bait fish. So that's in the works.
Okay.
We're hoping to have, you know, our mold designs and mold cuts by the end of this year to where we can release them here in the upcoming season or the following season, shall I say.
Awesome. Anything else that you want to talk about before I let you go?
I think we covered a lot of it.
I think I pushed you over the coals probably a couple extra times, making sure
that's okay.
we get everything out of you. But appreciate you coming on, man. Good luck this year with everything going on.
I'm trying to keep my voice at the show. Usually day 3 of the show is when I start losing my voice, and that's when Chris says, "Hey, you want to get on at 4 o'clock?"
Yeah. There's some lifesavers there. Grab a couple of lifesavers on the way out.
Awesome.
Let me grab that mic off you before you go.
Yep. There we go.
And that's Nick Socolowski from Soco Baits. You can visit him online. You can check him out at Fish USA pretty soon, too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks a lot. Nice chatting.
Yeah, great talking to you. All right, next guest I see is in the green room right now. I'm going to put on my headphones.
You have a good show?
So I can hear what he's saying.
Good.
Gabe, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How's it going, Chris?
Good. How are you?
I'll keep him busy like usual.
Absolutely. We were hoping to see you here this weekend, but had some tricky weather.
Yeah. It was. We had some obligations on Monday, and I knew Sunday wasn't going to be too pleasant trying to drive across the southern shore of Lake Erie. So, I made the decision we were going to get some things done here at the home office. So, I like the new studio. The
comfy chairs.
Cool. Yeah.
This was the deal. We said we were not coming unless we get comfortable chairs this year, so we got them.
Now I know what to ask for in the future.
Yep. Just tell them you want comfortable chairs. Well, tell me what's going on with the Ultimate Salmon Derby this year.
Well, year number 2, we're super excited about it. Really, format-wise, it's not going to change. We're still going to be 10 weeks, and it resets every 2 weeks. First place is $15,000 for each of those 2-week sessions, and then we got prizes down to the top 5. Got a trout division, got our boat ticket division. Just very excited to see what year number 2 brings here. We got some great prizes on board, and pushing forward every day.
Yeah, tell folks a little bit about kind of the details of just how your format works and just how the Derby works in itself.
Yeah, so basically, the way it works, we actually start the giveaways and prizes in February. So if you buy your ticket early, we do weekly giveaways. This year we have even $1,000 monthly giveaways that we're doing with Trax Tech. Then once the fishing session comes June 14th to August 24th, basically you just go out and fish whenever you want. Catch a big fish, use our app to take a picture of it, and basically you take that to one of our weigh stations. Last year we had 24. I think we're adding another 6 this year, so we'll be somewhere around 30. And then if your fish holds out till the end of the 2-week session, we'll informally congratulate you that you won the prize. We got and then we do our award ceremony mid-September. So lots of opportunities to win. Like I said, top 5 every 2 weeks. Plus we have top 3 trout in the Dreamweaver trout division. Then we have the Psionics boat ticket division, which we do top 3 on that side too. So there's just tons of prizes to win. Plus our weekly giveaways. We gave away a ton last year.
Yeah, with these weekly giveaways starting right now, it kind of makes it so that if you're thinking about doing this, you shouldn't wait until, July or something when you're ready to go fishing. Get in right now and get yourself an opportunity to win something right away.
Yeah, they're nice $250 prize packs from all of our general sponsors. We have 48 weeks of that. So that started the first week in February here, and it goes all the way till the end of December. So lots of chances to win, lots of fun. Even our award ceremony, we got tons of prizes we give away there. I urge everyone to take advantage of all the giveaways that we're doing.
And you said that, you've got this boat ticketed division. Tell me about how that works.
Yeah, so the way the boat ticket works is it's the anyone that steps foot on a boat that is covered under a boat ticket, they are automatically in the Derby. So basically, if you go out fishing with a buddy that has a boat ticket, you don't need your own individual ticket. So there's because those tickets are a higher price, they're $850 versus the $100 individual ticket. We have a supplementary category that they are fishing against each other in. Only the people that are in the boat ticket. So when you have an individual ticket, it only covers you, but when you have a boat ticket, it covers anyone that steps foot on the boat.
So the boat ticket actually gets you into the regular part of the Derby as well and the boat ticket part?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Awesome. So a lot of ways to win there. Tell me about, you said you're going to 30 weigh-in stations this year. Tell me
Yeah.
about some of those.
Yeah, so we're all around Lake Michigan. I mean, from the southern end to all the way to Mackinac or Sheboygan, all the way on the top end, and then on the Wisconsin shoreline, all the way up to the Little Bay Denok in the UP. We've got weigh stations on the Lake Huron side of things. So because the Derby's all of Lake Michigan, all of Lake Huron, we're trying to cover the areas very well. So um, you shouldn't you really shouldn't have to drive in most situations more than 45 minutes to get to a weigh station if you do catch a big fish.
Tell me about some of the fish you had in the Derby last year. What did it take to win?
Yeah, so last year 36 pounder won it. It was actually a 9-year-old girl. Her and her family went out fishing. They had a family ticket last year, and they landed this absolute giant, and it was amazing fish. The story was amazing, and super excited for them. They cashed a $15,000 check for that.
Nothing wrong with that. Tell me about the story. The story is amazing. We got time for it. Let's hear it.
So my understanding is they were out for an evening troll. The family was so mom, dad, and two kids. They were actually starting to pick up lines. This one rod went off. They got the bite. They knew it was a big fish, and the fish was caught in the rod holder basically, and they pulled all the rest of the rods out and chased the fish around to get it up in the boat. And I know I got I think it was a Sunday night if I remember correctly. I got a phone call saying, "Hey, there's a giant fish that was caught in Manistee, and can you make sure that all the e-tournament, that all the pictures went through on the app and everything?" And sure enough, it was a giant fish. They weighed it in. It was 36.3 pounds. The Beckman family, they really got a giant fish. It was impressive on a Chili Willy. I think it was a Dreamweaver Chili Willy spoon. Just goes to show you that you don't need to be a pro. You don't need to be a charter captain. It just takes one big fish to win this thing.
You mentioned they had a family ticket. Is that something you're still offering this year?
No, this year we went away from the family ticket because there was a lot of people that, it was a dad and a child, or uncle and a nephew, and so what we did is we made a kids ticket, which is $40 in lieu of the $100 adult ticket. That covers
Mhm.
anyone that's under 18, and we got rid of the boat ticket. So it should open
The
up some
family
more
ticket.
opportunities. Yeah, or sorry, the family ticket. Yeah,
Still have
sorry.
the boat ticket.
Yeah, we still do. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure that we had that clarified. Somebody wants to get involved in this. How do they do it?
www.theultimatesalmonderby.com, our website. You jump on there. You can buy your ticket through there. You can see all of our rules. We got all the winners posted, our news, everything is there. So jump on the website. You can buy a ticket there, and basically just follow us on Facebook. If you see us on Facebook, most of our live stuff are, we do all kinds of videos, prize videos, things like that. Just follow us on Facebook, and you'll get a good feel for it. If you're not a Facebook person, we actually have a little tab in our on our website that gives you the Facebook feed, so you can even see it through there. But
So you're eligible to start winning prizes right now. So if you're thinking about getting in, go and get in right away so you can possibly win one of those weekly prizes right now. But when does the actual fishing start? And how? I think you said you got 2 week
yeah,
sections.
yeah, June 14th it starts. It's a Saturday, so we go 2 week sessions. It resets every 2 weeks. So all the top 5 prizes, all the trout division prizes, the boat ticket prizes, they all reset every 2 weeks, and it goes all the way until August 24th. So the last 2 week sessions a little bit longer. We had an extra weekend in there for that last 2 week session.
Very good, Gabe. You're doing things a little bit different. I remember last year you had like an Atlantic salmon division, those types of things. You're just doing trout and salmon this year. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, we're just doing trout and salmon this year. I'm hoping to bring back the Atlantic division here in years to come. We're trying to grow. I know everyone wants to see the prizes even bigger than they are today, and I know they can get there. But yeah, right now it's the trout and salmon divisions, and then the boat ticket division.
So this year it's going to be really key if you're in this derby to kind of go after those kings, and then in the trout end of it, you're probably looking at Lakers being what you're going to want to be going after to get the win, right?
Yeah, there was some big Browns weighed in last year. So don't count the Browns out, that's for sure. And if the Kings aren't in your area, I would, and you've got some big Lakers around. There's some great prizes on that side too. Don't give up. That's kind of why we did it. We knew that the fish migrations happen throughout Lake Michigan, and they'll be there, they won't be there, and you still have opportunities to win on the on the trout division.
Yeah, I love doing it that way because then you've got, like you say, if you're fishing in an area where right now, the Kings have moved off, you can go out there and chase Lakers. And I think it's just something that will make people a little bit better angler too, because it forces them to go out and try new things to try to play into this derby and try to win themselves some pretty cool prizes.
Yeah. I think if I were to give anyone a cheat code here, it's putting hours in on the water. A lot of guys kind of give up after that morning bite. If you're out there on the water putting time in, your chances are better of winning. And don't treat it just like a weekend. Hey, we're gonna fill the cooler for meat. Do some searching, get out there, spend some time, and capitalize on good weather windows and the time that you have to do it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a cool thing. Just give people a little bit of opportunity to fish in a different way. I mean, if you've been out there and kind of feel like you're stuck in a rut, this would be something to kind of make it a little bit more exciting. Gabe, let's hear about you. Tell me about where you like to fish and kind of how you do your thing.
Yeah, so our home port is now Ludington, Michigan. We used to fish Lake Ontario out of Bluffers Park for many years. Used to fish the Great Ontario Salmon Derby for a long time. And now we're out of Ludington. It's a completely different world there from Bluffers Park in Ontario. It's basically, there's a lot of boat traffic. There's a lot of people fishing. It's the water's a lot clearer. It's a different game. So when we came back to Ludington, we had to relearn the game again. I learned how to fish out of Manistee, so took that over to Lake Ontario, and then some of the stuff from Lake Ontario I couldn't exactly bring back to Lake Michigan. The bait's different, the water clarity, like I said, so relearning it. We spend a lot of weekends out there, especially now with the Derby, and traveling around the lake. I'm hoping to fish that northwest corner of Lake Michigan this year. That's kind of a bucket list item there.
Yeah, you live in a pretty gorgeous place. I was over there last fall, did some fishing in that neck of the woods, and it's hard to beat where you're living. But like you say, that water's really clear over there. It presents a lot of different challenges to you when you're out there fishing.
Yeah. We used to think twice about going in the dark in Lake Ontario because of everything that was floating around. I saw everything from picnic tables and, full on logs out there floating around in Lake Ontario. Lake Michigan, it's kind of at least on the Michigan side, it's a little bit different. You don't have all that debris. You don't have, and a lot of guys focus their day around that early morning bite, so definitely some differences.
Awesome, Gabe. Anything else you want to talk about before we let you go? We got a minute or so here. If you got anything else to bring up?
Well, we got the Ultimate Walleye Derby too for anyone that's making the trek out to the Detroit River area to fish that fishery. Check us out on that front, www.theultimatewalleyederby.com. And we're pretty much doing the same thing as the salmon side. It's just 4 weeks long and it resets every week. Some big prizes on that front, lots of giveaways. So get out there, get your ticket, and we appreciate you having us on, Chris.
Yeah, is that centered kind of around that Detroit River area? Where do you have weigh-in stations for that?
Yeah, so that goes all the way from Saginaw Bay, Lake Huron, all the way south into the Michigan waters of Erie, and there's a sliver on the Canadian side. So all the water in between those two areas, Detroit River, St. Clair River, huge. It's a huge footprint again. So
awesome. Well, good luck to anyone who wants to jump in. I know last year, awesome prizes there for people, and it sounds like you've got it pretty well keyed up again for this season. It's the Ultimate Salmon Derby and the Ultimate Walleye Derby. Use Gabe Selesan. And Gabe, just throw that website out there one more time for people.
Yep. www.theultimatesalmonderby.com and www.theultimatewalleyederby.com. And
Alrighty.
we appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. And tell Trevor I said hello. Is he there with you this year?
He's skipping out. Hopefully he's watching in Minnesota right now. He didn't want to come to New York this year for some reason.
Gotcha.
So,
well,
it's just me and all the buffalo wings I can eat.
Yeah, if you can make your way out to Lake Michigan, make sure you reach out.
Will do.
All right,
thanks,
buddy.
Gabe.
Thank you. We'll see you.
All right, that's Gabe from the Ultimate Salmon Derby. Good to have him back, and our next guest is hanging out here. We're going to bring him in. We're ready for you, Patrick. How you doing?
Good.
Put this microphone on you. All right, it's Patrick Yohon from GRC.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Not too much.
How's the show going for you so far?
Good.
Good?
Yes.
You having plenty of conversations with folks out there?
Yes.
Tell me about what the traffic's been like so far this weekend.
It was slow Thursday. It was a little slow Friday, but today has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
With the traffic and the salmon school going. People are really, looking at products, shopping. say they'll come back to my booth, and I've had a lot of sales this week.
Yeah, it was amazing. Today when we were doing our earlier show, I'm looking around as we're talking, and there's just people everywhere in here. So there's a lot of excitement in the room here today, a lot of things going on. And I know I've walked by your booth a few times, and there's been a lot of people around and checking out what you got. So why don't you tell people a little bit about your company and what you guys do?
I was an off-road truck driver for a few years, and a buddy of mine said, "Hey, on your 34-hour break," I said, "Well, I started doing tying flies in my semi as a hobby, and then I started making more flies, different color flies, and now it's so big now. I do 100% of my tying. I do 100%. It's my wife. My wife helps me out when she can. She's a full-time nurse, and it's just we're in Canada. We're in New York. We're going into Michigan. Tangle Tackle. I had some stuff in Tangle Tackle. Captain Chuck's reached out to me, last week, and I sent some paperwork to them. We're in Triple S as a distributor, and the distributor, it's just got big.
Yeah.
I mean, on my 101 or 102 different color meat rigs.
Wow.
Different ones. And when I first started, I was buying my heads from John King in Michigan, and he just was raping the pricing on his heads. So I decided to go and build my own, get my own mold. And now the guys love them.
Yeah.
They just roll, come right out of the package, they roll. We came out with I hand airbrush these. I use a bead with I was using a toothpick before. Now I'm using a bead peg, and I put a bead peg down below with a bead. So now the head goes out. You can adjust the head and the meat to wherever you need to be.
Let's take a look. Yeah, that's gorgeous. You call this is the Frostbite cut bait rig, and you were telling me yesterday this is like one of your most popular.
This most popular rig last year, I could not keep it in stock in the stores. I know a few guys over in Michigan ran it. I think Dark Blue Charters, and he ran some other ones that I didn't bring. But the Cow Glow Squid rig was probably his best producer and catching his fish. But it's the time, it's the color, it's how the fish react to everything.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many different pro staff will run anything different. You know what I mean? They'll run what they want to run, and it's I have Ron Miner from Quick Draw Sports Fishing. He just runs what he wants to run. He's like, oh, this ain't gonna work. He puts it out, and it outperforms. It just I have another guy too. He runs artificial herring. We just started artificial herring last year, the end of the season, and he was running regular cut bait, and he was running this, and he was running this on a 400 copper, and it was just getting trashed.
Yep.
And it has scented herring oil, and there's no metal in it, so you don't have to tune it.
Okay.
So
Let's see that. So yeah, this is just basically a soft bait then that you're gonna put in your meat head.
yes.
GRC artificial herring UV glow. Tell me about the glow.
The glow is mixed into the unit, and it actually it looks UV and under the UV light, and then when it goes in the dark, it glows.
Yeah. Looks like you got GRC right in your mold. That's
Yes,
pretty cool.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. It's a nice looking bait. What else you got with you?
This here I've been doing for a while, for a while, but we have our own Laker bell with an E-chip built into it, and it's aluminum. It's not stainless steel or anything like that, so you can actually tune it, and it's lighter. It's light now. It's not the heavy ones I used to make, and guys run this too. So it's all custom, built by me.
Yeah. Well, this one's Apple Pucker Glow Laker Bell, and you got green, some silver, some black dots in there. King salmon love black dots.
Yep.
Yeah. And you said that it's got an E-chip in it. Tell me about that.
So the E-chip is actually, it gives little micro pulses out. There's a ball in there, and it hits the porcelain, and inside, and it's water activated. So what it does is it acts like a wounded bait fish, but it gives it little micro pulses, and it hits the nervous system of like the fish, and they go crazy over it because it's like a wounded bait fish, and it just it brings them to the unit. It's like a spin doctor, a Pro Troll flasher. And the Pro Troll flasher has an E-chip in it. When it rotates, that ball hits it, and it gives it a little micropulse. That's why if you look at anything that you see, like in tournaments or LOC derby or any kind, you see it on the flasher, like a Pro Troll flasher or a Pro Troll E-chip or a fly, or this year or last year I had a guy run an E-chip BAM, and he caught the LOC Derby, plus he also won the biggest fish caught in the Lots of Dirt tournament. And he came to my house personally and bought 24 freaking BAM flies from me.
Yeah.
With the E-chip.
I got a question here from Jim. Jim wants to know how long does the E-chip last?
That's a good question, Jim. I have no idea. It's until I don't know. I don't know. It's just like a flasher. I don't know how long they last. That's a good question, though. That's a real good question.
Tell me, what else do you hit? Do you got other things that have the E-chip in it other than a cowbell?
I have 4-inch flies and 6-inch flies in the E-chip.
Okay.
I can't put it in the head because Pro Troll has a head that has an E-chip in it.
Okay.
And I went around and around last year with my salesman, and he was arguing with me about I was putting it in there, and I was not putting it in there. So.
Gotcha. Well, tell me about some of your more you brought these, but what are some of your more popular colors on Lake Ontario?
Greens,
Yep.
Greens, blues, blacks. It depends on what the color of the water is. So, I mean, our water is a little bit cloudier than Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan's more clear. I don't know why, but that's because we have the Niagara River, and we have the Seaway, St. Lawrence Seaway. We have the Welland Canal. You got all the creeks coming out from all the mud water, and like I say, I don't know. I haven't been to Lake Michigan at all, but.
Well, you're kind of working with Chris Engels up on Lake Michigan. Tell me about how you guys got together.
I reached out to Chris a while ago, and he's really, he'll run my product and stuff like that, but he does run it, and he does give me feedback. He does do the tangle tackle. He does do the feedback on that. But personally, he doesn't really. He's not my pro staff.
Sure.
I would like to have him, but he's with with a bunch of different ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Do you work with anybody else over on some of those other waters?
Ryan runs my stuff.
Okay.
Real Hero Charters or something like that. Him. Gabe from the one that runs the Salmon Derby there. He
Gabe
runs
Selesan,
it.
Yeah.
Scott oh shit. Scott does. There's some other guys over there too, but I don't know. I have probably half a dozen guys around there.
Tell me about where you fish out of, Patrick.
I fish out of Oak Orchard.
Okay.
Sandy Creek is where I used to, but now I run out of Oak Orchard.
What do you like about fishing out of that area?
You get to the water quicker, deeper water quicker than going from like Rochester or Sandy Creek, because it's like a 12-mile run or more, depending on where you want to fish. And you go for water temperature and I think from Sandy Creek to 600 feet of water is like 22 miles or 12 to 22 miles, and that's a long.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get out there, it's like it's another country. So,
Right. Literally.
Yeah, it is. It is. You can barely see a shoreline.
Right. Right.
Or if something's going on in Canada, you'll hear Canada, Prescott 1 or Prescott 2 out of Canada. I'm like, wow, I'm that close to Canada.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Tell me about when you're running your own stuff out of your boat out there out of Oak Orchard. Tell me about your testing and what you're doing out there.
I do a lot of testing and speeds and different lengths up from the downrigger and how fast it rolls and how I can slow it down. The 13-inch paddle, I run around 2.25, 2.4. But I also have it, 15 to 20 feet behind the ball, so it has a bigger whip.
Sure.
But my leaders on the meat rigs are 72. So I have that little bit of, with that big 13-inch flasher, you got a bigger span, so you got a longer lead for your roll.
Yeah. So what have you seen there when you mess around with leader lengths? What would you kind of recommend to people?
It's your preference of how you want to run it. If you want to run it slower, you make a longer leader. If you want to run a smaller paddle, you bring it in a little bit, or you bring it closer to the ball, so it's not so far back.
What have you seen for yourself? Like, what's the most successful way for you to run them?
I run all 72.
72.
Yep. With the 13-inch paddle.
The 13-inch paddle.
Yep.
You like that combination?
Yep.
Tell me about your cowbells and your fishing those.
These here, you want to run slow, but I also run peanut flies behind it with a spinning glow. So,
are you bouncing bottom there, or what are you doing?
Sometimes you can bounce bottom, but I like to leave my ball up about 5 feet and let it sink and let it just hit the bottom and drag. And these don't bend like the other ones. They'll just buckle.
Yeah. How long a lead are you running there on those?
About 2 foot.
2 foot.
Yeah.
That's getting you your spin that you want to get.
Yes.
People want to find out more. They want to get a hold of you. How do they do it?
www.grctrollingflies.com.
Okay. Are you in like some retailers or?
Yes, I'm in Canada. We're in Natural Sports, Angling Outfitters, Gagnon. In New York, we're in Boat Doctors, Mitchell's, Rochester, Route 18, Tackle, Sonny's, Fat Nancy's, all seasons.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the whole area of stores on this side.
Gotcha. What do you got coming down the pipe? You working on anything new?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. There might be something eventually, but I haven't worked in it yet.
Yeah. And what trends are you seeing when you're starting to think about maybe what you go? What do you think is kind of hot this time of year? What's going on that you're thinking of? Hey, this is something that maybe we want to get into.
Well, if my wife doesn't kill me, I would like to do some other things.
Yeah.
I would like to make a smaller cut bait head.
Mm-hmm.
But that might be down the road. Like, I know a few people, they like the Rye Davis heads, and there's not a lot of Rye Davis heads out, that size, market out there. But, time can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely hearing that from people. When we had Nick on here just a little while ago, he was talking about the same thing. People are looking for a little bit smaller body to put on in those heads, and it's just something that as people get out and start using more meat heads, it's one of those things that I think a lot of people are afraid of. It's easy to put a spoon on, and they see that and they think that's a little more complicated.
Right.
Is there an easy way to use them that you think that makes it more simple, that maybe somebody who hasn't thought about using meat heads might want to think about?
Well, if they're used to doing just a spoon and not getting into the meat, I'm going to tell you that when I first started getting into meat, I was like, this ain't going to work, and it's not going to, But if you talk to like the, bigger captains and stuff like that, they'll run a meat, just a plain meat head, 8 to 10 feet back behind a flasher, and that's all it is just a head, and it's just spinning. There's no teaser, there's no nothing. It's just sitting there, just like a regular fish in the water. Like it's, I don't even know how to explain how it even looks like, but the ones with the teasers are like flasher, like it has a flash, so they get attracted to it. And sometimes they will run, and they'll run right into that teaser and bite that teaser, and then you got 2 teasers left, and you got no hook, no nothing, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
They do that. This last year, we'd run 500 copper, and we could bring it back, and just 2 teasers. There's no head, there's no nothing. It's just bit right now.
Wow.
And that happened a bunch of times. But I think it's the cohos that do it, because they're going after the flash instead of the actual meat rig.
Yeah. I blame everything on co-hosts.
No, not everything, not everything. But like I can't explain how many times we get a fish and the thing would roll around the whole entire fish, and then you're trying to reel it in and you can't even budge the fish, and it's coming in sideways. It happened a bunch of times. It's like, wow, the freaking pole's gonna break because you don't have no lever, you have no gain. We caught a fish one time, it tail hooked it. Don't ask me how.
Yeah.
But that's even funner.
Yeah, it's a tough bugger to bring in.
Yeah. Come back, reel in.
Good time.
Watch it go across all your downrigger lines, your leader, your planer board lines. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
And then you come back, you got a big pile of mess.
Gives you something to do for the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah, right. You just cut and redo.
All right. Patrick, I appreciate you coming on, and it's fun talking to you. And again, GRC Trolling Flies, if people want to find out more about them, you can go there and learn more about what Patrick's got going on. And hey, have a great rest of your show.
And if you mention I was on Fishhawk, I'll give you 10% off.
There you go. 10% off. All you got to do is say, hey, we saw you on the Fishhawk show. Awesome.
Thank you, people.
I'll take that. Yeah. Thanks, Patrick. Grab that mic off you, and have a great rest of your show.
Thank you.
All right, Patrick Yohon from GRC Trolling Flies. Next guest is hanging out here. I see him walking around. We'll bring him in. Mr. Jim Steele. How you doing, sir?
Here.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Oh,
Clip that on you. I think you know what to do with that.
maybe. A little bit.
A little bit. Done it a few times before. What do you got going on? Tell me what's new.
What's new or what's new for today? I haven't got myself in any more trouble today. So,
That's a good thing, yeah.
The usual. I mean, we doing the charters, doing the retail fishing, hunting equipment. President of East Rainier Lake League Charter Boat Association, and then got involved with a lot more of the sportsman style stuff. So got on board with the Erie County Sportsman Clubs. I got New York State Conservation Council and a few more things, just trying to make sure we get our sportsman word out there, especially when it comes to our fishing side. Especially on Erie, we're lacking the water access and with the wind turbines and all that other stuff. Got to stay active. Just can't sit there and cry about it after. So
right. What's going on with that? I know we talked to Dave Adrian a couple of years ago about that, but any new things going on with the wind turbine issue?
Kind of keeps, every time it gets knocked down, it kind of gets brought back up. There was some outside area people that were trying to come back in and go through the legislators and stuff and try to get some ground with it. And we just keep fighting it. We've got a local senator that basically has put together a bill that he's pushing on it, which would be a moratorium on it to shut down the whole possibilities of putting wind turbines on the lake. Because to me, it's the long game with it, because I just look at, even if it does what they want it to do energy wise, what do we give up because they're going to anchor into the bedrock in the lake, and all that pollutants that have been buried for years, we're going to stir it back up, and that's our fishery, that's our watershed for millions of people drinking water. So it's just, you got to look at where we end up, not where we.
Right.
Having alternative energy is great, but what do we have to give up to get there?
Right. And then you lose all that place to fish. I mean, that's and place to do your recreation kind of goes out the window with all that stuff being in there as well.
So it's been more about trying to get our sportsman voice out there, because it starts out as joining a club, and then basically the clubs belong to a federation, and the county federation belongs to the New York State Federation, then it goes into, from there up into the Conservation Council. So it's kind of the pyramid, so kind of squeaky wheel gets greased. So you can't sit there and cry over spilled milk. It's too late.
Right. Tell me about the outfit. What's going on with your charter, Dreamcatcher Sport Fishing?
So added the other boat the other year, so I still have the 31 Tierra that you've been out on. I had 22 Vexes, so I can bounce around more with that and do some multi-species, more options on it, and some night bite stuff, and even get into some of the bass and perch and whatever else. And so it gives me the ability to bounce around a little bit, and then it comes to the tournaments, we can be one of the sparkly fast boats out there.
Yeah,
that's been fun. Just multiple things, and doing that side of it. And we have the TV show. We're in our 5th season. We just started airing that, so super active, and I just keep on adding more hats, and I haven't figured out how to wear them all at the same time, but
well, you can wear a few of them at the same time. Tell me about your home port is Dunkirk.
yes.
People don't know about that. Tell me about fishing out of Dunkirk.
The great thing with Dunkirk is you're kind of on the edge of still having some shallow water structure, and then you can push offshore and get into some of the deep water structure or just open water in general. So we can fish all the way from your bass, smallmouth bass, which we pick up which is funny. I laugh because the bass guys get all worked up about a 5-pound smallmouth. I'm like, we catch them kind of like collateral damage. We're out there trolling, and we get into some brown trout, we get into steelhead, we go after our walleyes, and then we can get into 20 to 30 pound Lakers if we really want to. So I center it out. If you're coming out on a walleye charter, we're going to go after walleyes. If you want to go out and catch some fish, we're going to get your walleye fillets, but we'll have some fun with some of the other fish. And you usually get them worn out with a 20 pound Laker.
Right.
They can work for it.
People want to come out. I mean, everybody likes to go out and catch themselves some tacos. When's the best time to come walleye fishing with you?
Our season has been in that, especially in that area, is we start in June, and pretty much we're pretty consistent all the way till pulling a boat out, which is one of the reasons why having the trailer boat now is the marinas our end starts shutting down. So by October 1st, we're starting to get pushed out. By mid-October, we're done with the big boats, and the marinas are shutting down. But so if you have a trailer boat, you still can still continue on. Our fishing's still great right through that. Beginning of the season, it just depends on the water temperature. As it kind of speeds it up or slows it down. But we're fishing more resident fish, so those fish are there right through it. I mean, in New York, we have the season shuts down during spawn compared to like Ohio and stuff like that. So it protects our local fish, and by the time it kicks on, we're good with that, and we can work right through the whole season. In the area that I'm at with Dunkirk, it's great because, like I said, we have the transitions. I can find fish all year long doing the same things. And I have the ability with having a nice marina. I've got fuel at the marina. I've got a fish cleaning station there. We've got local hotels. We got local restaurants. So somebody coming in from out of town, it's huge that way. So we've got a lot more people coming. Over the last couple of years, a lot of people coming from the Virginia-wise, West Virginia, and don't really, they come and they'll see Niagara Falls, but we've actually got them where they want to come and catch some walleyes at our end. So that's been kind of a neat little thing there.
Yeah, you got a lot of options there as far as hotels go and restaurants, and that's me. I always like to know what's going on in the ice cream shops. You got some good ice cream shops in town there
right on the
too.
boardwalk there, we got ice cream, we got pizza, we got all that stuff. We got a big cherry you can take a picture in.
Right. Yeah. So if somebody wants to go walleye fishing with you, I mean, how do you target these guys?
Just kind of built a trade. Social media is, I used to be kind of, social media wasn't me, but it's become a necessary evil, getting information out there across the board. The biggest thing is our website has been great. We actually set up an interactive calendar, so that's always been a struggle with us, because you call, you track me down, and through Google searches and everything else, I've spent a lot of time trying to make sure I'm up at the top. But then you call and you're like, okay, so what do you got available in June? I give you the dates. What do you got July and everything else? And you're like, okay, let me check with the family, check with the buddies and everything else. And then you call me back and you're like, that June 30th I wanted. And I'm like, I never gave you that date.
Yep.
Well, what about July 13th? Well, that one's booked too. Well, can you get somebody to switch? No, so now with the interactive, they can see what's open and they can actually book it, lock themselves right in. So that's been a huge asset there. So
yeah, what's the fishing like? How are you chasing these walleyes down?
So on my end, we're trollers. So lead core is one of my go-tos. Even I've been doing seminars on it. I mean, 80% of our fish come off the lead cores, and then we're running gypsy divers, some downriggers, and some inlines right across the board, all that stuff. But day in, day out, it's a lot of work for running the longer lines. You've been out there, but the thing is that day in, day out, my lead cores will outproduce anything that's there. So.
Yeah. You love using night crawlers, right? Jim doesn't like night crawlers.
I thought we were fighting for a minute. so my analogy, I was a harness guy for years.
Yeah.
And it was kind of necessary. I still have probably 300 harnesses on the boat. I don't know how many blades. And then it just got to the point where you're buying a flat and you're taking care of them. And I always tell everybody, it's like having a dog on your boat. You got to keep them dry, but you got to keep them moist. You got to feed them. You got to clean them. You got to pull the dead ones out, and you work them into the floor. You're trying to clean it up. Then you go home and you put them in the fridge. You always get a few that escape, and heaven forbid you forget them on the boat, and you go there the next day and they pretty bad. So I've been able to run pretty much stick baits and accomplish the same things without having to worry about having a worm on the boat. So tried some rubber worm style stuff. There's some new stuff out. It does okay, but it's not the thing for me. And what I found out was harnesses, we tend to get what we call junk fish. So your sheephead and your silver bass, white bass, and all that stuff like that. So it kind of keeps us farther away from that stuff. So and we can catch a lot more of the variety with the stick baits, and so
yeah. Tell me a little bit about that. What are some kind of tips and tricks, I guess, if you're going to be trolling stick baits, some things that people should think about when they're going to go do that?
In our area, it's one of the things it's kind of the opposite of what most people would think, is because I've got a lot of friends in Michigan and the Ohio end, and they're running deep divers in shallow water. We're running shallow divers in deeper water, but we're also using lead cores and dipsies and downriggers and everything else. So that's what's achieving our depth. And I like running shallow divers because that gives us that tight pattern, more vibration, more flash, and everything else. Because I don't need the big bill to actually get that depth. And to me, if you have a big bill, the energy is used to actually dive. On the shallow diver, it's that action is going side to side. So it's something we played around with, and it outproduces using the other way. So
Yeah.
so that's kind of personal preference. I run everything under the sun. Colors is the last thing that I worry about, but over the last few years, smaller baits have been doing more and more. We've kind of, that whole minnow profile has been huge because our forage base has changed over time, but we've gotten a lot farther into kind of goby style, that little thicker, shorter. So is even as crazy as it sounds, we're running flicker shad number 3s and catching 8-pound fish on, tearing hooks apart, but hooks are easy to change, and so that's one of don't bypass little baits. That old thing of big baits, big fish. You can get them, and it kind of opens up the avenue to catch some of those mid-sized fish too. So
Yeah. Tell me, how do you find fish out there? I mean, it's a big piece of water. It's deep. You know, you're fishing deep water walleyes. How do you find them?
So like I said, so we have a lot of structures. So I kind of center myself on the outskirts of the structure. The great thing is, I said, we have inside, we have outside. So it depends on which way winds are blowing and everything else. But we have a lot of underwater currents, so I pay attention to that. You can go on NOAA and you can see like surface currents and subsurface currents. And that, when we get into the open water, we don't have the structure. So actually the currents are what creates the structure, holds the water temps and holds the bait. And so I kind of target those areas, and predominantly it's the same areas almost every single year. I've done a thing where I've laid it over on different things, and they're spend a little time before you actually go fishing instead of leaving the dock and trying to, okay, which way are we going? We going west? We going east? Whatever about that. Van Buren Point in Dunkirk you can't miss with going out there. So just stick around in between the shallow and the deep water structure, and if you want to venture out from there, you can find some of the fish moving through that open water there. So it's keep it simple. So
You said the current is your structure.
yes.
How do you integrate fish hawk into your program?
So pretty much I could care less what I'm doing on the surface pinwheels, any of that stuff, my speed over ground, I could care less about that. I want to know what my lures are doing. I'm religious with it. On the big boat, one downrigger specifically for my fish hawk. I'm running up and down. That's my speed. On the smaller boat, I'm running pretty much it's a portable version of it, and I could care less about any other speeds. My magic number across the board is usually about 2.2. I'll speed up, I'll slow down. I think one of the largest things is I can see where those currents are actually pushing through, so I know that I'm kind of in those areas on top of where it is. And predominantly in our area, you'll hear the guys on the radio saying it's an east troll or whatever it is. And with the fish hawk, it has given me the ability, a lot of times when guys are saying it's an east troll, I can turn around and go west and actually outproduce the bite on the opposite direction. The only way I can do that is because I can accomplish that speed by either speeding up, pushing into them, or whatever else. And when you're pushing into the waves, you're creating more action on your baits. And to me, it's one of those things, if we're doing an east troll, if I have to go all the way down my pole, break everything down, run all the way back up, reset, start trolling again, I'm wasting fishing time. If I can turn around, I can push right back into them and accomplish sometimes even a better bite. That's more of a better thing to me than just running back and forth. It depends on if you can do it with your boat, the setups. I mean, I've transitioned through different boats, taken a aluminum boat with the top up on a windy day to push back into them and turn around into them. There's a little more struggle than putting a big tier out there. Even my Vexus turns pretty nice on it too. So
you also have a TV show. Tell us about that.
Experience New York Outdoors, and pretty much it's predominantly hunting and fishing. We've gotten into some of the maple syrup and the wine tasting. We've gone to Lake Placid during the winter. Everything is all self-filmed, all produced by ourselves. It's kind of a local. Fox 29 is the big one in this area, so that actually covers into 5 boroughs of Canada, all the way to the Pennsylvania border. We do Rochester, Syracuse. It airs on Hunt Channel later on. We break it up into segments for our YouTube. It's kind of just the love of what we do and getting it out there and working with some people. We've gone out with some of the other charter captains and and that kind of group together. If we do take a trip outside of the area, it's something reasonable. You're not going to see us doing an Africa trip or something like that.
Yep.
Got a friend of ours. It's a great guide out of Maine, so we go there striper fishing. We 6-hour trip for $400. It's just like, and you'd be there in 5 hours. So something like that is reasonable things. Not, I'm not taking those big dollar trips that can hunts and everything like that. And we did Florida, which, I mean, everybody's starting to get more of the Florida bug and bite when you get a little older, who wants to sit in this stuff all the time. And
Right.
we did a tarpon trip that's been airing, and that was a fun thing. That was, as a kid growing up with the Spanish fly, they did a tarpon trip in front of Boca Raton. They were catching tarpon, and the hammerheads came in and were feeding on them. And I told Diane, the wife, about, I'm like, man, that's on my bucket list, a tarpon. And she's like, okay. And I said, if we can really catch it when the sharks are in there,
Yeah.
we did. We caught it, and we had a 15-foot hammerhead come in and take one of the fish that we were releasing right out of the guy's hands.
Wow.
So that's actually on the show and everything.
Holy cow.
That's some neat stuff. That was kind of like, that was a dream that actually came true.
Yeah. So tell me what that's like when you're going to go out and run a charter, or you guys are just going out and doing a little fishing. Now all of a sudden we're taking a camera with us and we're filming something. Tell me about the challenges of doing that.
It's a whole different mindset that you have to get into, because if it doesn't happen in front of the camera, it really doesn't happen at all. One of the things, especially on the hunting side, it's just like, that deer comes through, and so now it's to the point where if I can't get it on film, even though it's a gimme shot and it's the deer I've been after all year, I can't shoot them. And so it makes it more challenging. Diane lived it this year, so she did a great job she's been hunting on her own. She got great footage of a deer coming through that's on our shooter list, and it just didn't work out. She got the great footage, but not the hero shot at the end. So fishing wise, it's tough trying to get those angles and a lot of sacrifice. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir with you. It's just like, to try to get that shot is 10 times harder than what you were doing before. But it's a mindset, and if you can pull it off, it's super rewarding.
Yep.
And then even better when somebody comes back to you and they said, hey, I saw that footage and that was impressive. You're like, okay, good job.
Right. The problem is most people don't even realize what it takes to do that. They just see it and they just think, oh, anybody can go do that.
I mean, the half-an-hour TV show is 28 and a half minutes, and to put all that together is, you can have a day out there where you've got extreme footage where you could put 3 shows together, and then there's times where it takes 6 outings to get enough for that one good solid half-an-hour show. And then you got to put commercials and everything else in it, and it's just like, what did I get myself into?
Right.
But it's the love of what we do. So
yeah. You keep bringing up your wife's name, Diane.
Yeah.
Doing this, you guys, every time I see you, you're together. And what's it done for your marriage to have this together?
So it was one of the things when we first got together. She didn't fish at all. Hunting wise, she had an uncle that hunted, so she kind of understood about it. She had tasted deer meat, didn't think it was anything special. So we got together, and she understood that this is what I do and things like that. So she never, this thing we're allowed to go do things. She actually, like, trail camera pictures. We went right through them and everything else, and then they got her out fishing. And now we're to the point, like, the kids growing up, watching all the stuff I was hoping they would get more involved in the hunting, fishing. They kind of chose their own paths and they're doing their own thing. But as of us as a couple, she's gotten more involved and I've kind of like pushed her into things that she's never done before, which is, to me, it's kind of it's a rewarding thing for me to bring kind of somebody outside of it to give them the idea of even understanding the passion that I have, and she's got it now. And to me, it's kind of nice because she's got the female side of it, and coming from a family that didn't do any of these things. So I was fortunate growing up, like fishing. My grandfather was big into it and everything. My dad really didn't, but he took us fishing. Hunting, nobody hunted in my family, but I got the idea about doing it, and he took the course with me and everything else because he didn't want to say no. I was fortunate to be able, one of his work friends basically had a camp, and I got to get involved with them. So I wasn't raised on it, but I had the ability, and nobody told me no.
Right.
So that was a big thing, and it's so nowadays. Hopefully, we can get more people. So that was when we started doing the show about understanding, like making sure we do things with if we can get some kids out there, we can get couples out there, or whatever else, and get the word out there. It's just I've met the best people in my life through the outdoors
Awesome.
because it's common ground. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, which we have friends that are doctors, or a garbage man, or whatever it is. We're common ground.
Yeah.
So that's been awesome to me. And she understands it. It's like she's built relationships with people herself, not just as the couple and what we do with either the charters or the businesses or anything else. It's just when it came to the conservation council, they needed somebody as a treasurer. She's bookkeeper, so she volunteered before me to do that stuff. So I'm like, so now she's been bit by the bug.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
So it makes it easier on my end. Sometimes it makes it a little harder because everything's got to be instead of we can't divide and conquer. It's just everything kind of works together. But it's kind of a neat little journey that we're doing together, and we kind of get the feel of each other. And like I said, right now she's holding the booth down there. There isn't a question that anybody that's going to ask her is going to stump her.
Right.
They don't have to look for me.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. People want to find out more about what you guys are doing. Where should they go?
the easiest way to do it is we actually put everything under Steel Outdoors Group. So if you actually go to Steel Outdoors Group, you can find it online. And basically that actually gets into our TV show, our charters, our retail side of it. I run a 6-week walleye derby. That's also on there. We run a tournament out of Dunkirk. That's on there. So everything we do is now you can find it under one location. And we run a veterans fishing event. We've been taking out 150 veterans, and we get the DEC involved. They actually clean all the fish for the guys and stuff like that. So that's one of the most rewarding things that we do there. So it's been a wild ride.
Yeah.
Great ride. And
that's what it should be.
So
right.
it's been fun. It's a lot of work, but it's self-inflicted.
Awesome. Well, Jim, really appreciate you stopping by. Always fun talking to you. Always love having you on the show.
Like I said, you've always
have a great
got an
year.
open invitation.
Well, I might cash that in this year, so be careful.
All right.
All right, let me grab that mic off you. Here's Jim Steele. Thanks, Jim. All right, our next guest, I see him already in the green room and ready to go. He is Cory Goldsworthy from the Minnesota DNR. Let's bring him into the show. Cory, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. I really appreciate you joining me on a Saturday.
Oh, anytime, man. Thanks for the invite back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I would love having you on. Love talking a little Minnesota fishing. And just tell folks what you do for the Minnesota DNR.
Yeah, I'm the Minnesota DNR Lake Superior Fisheries Supervisor. So our office covers everything essentially from Duluth, Minnesota to the Grand Portage Reservation boundary, managing the charter, commercial, sport, fisheries. We do a lot of assessment work on the lake. We do a lot of steelhead trap work on the Knife River here in Minnesota. So essentially everything and all fish, that's what we cover for the lake. So
very cool. It's been a really good last 12 to 16, 18 months for that area. You sent me a few notes and said it's been really good coho fishing up there. Tell me about what you guys have had going on.
Yeah, it's been fantastic, man. I mean, we've had a 2022 year class of Cisco. That's the main native forage fish in Lake Superior. What we know about Cisco is we know they spawn every year. We know they hatch every year, but it's not that they always live to age 1. If they live to age 1, we know we'll see them as spawning adults. And what we've seen since about the late 1980s is a decline in recruitment events. So those young fish recruiting to be spawning adults. So we ran probably a good 15, 20 years of some pretty low Cisco densities. We weren't seeing really good recruitment, maybe a small year class once every 10 years. And, as your native forage fish in Lake Superior, that was causing some issues with, lack of food. Lake trout have switched over to rainbow smelt, which aren't native in Lake Superior in the 60s, 70s, 80s. But in 2022, we got a year class that we'd never seen before. It was bigger than the 1984 year class, which was the biggest we'd ever seen prior to that. And everybody put the feed bag on and started eating. So within a matter of about 2 years or a year and a half, we broke the coho record 3 times. We're right now sitting at 12 pounds, 14 ounces as the state record for that. I saw some pictures and talked with some anglers that they would make tours fishing Lake Michigan, and then they'd run up and hit Lake Superior and make it back into Minnesota. And they were reporting to me that they were catching bigger Chinooks on Lake Superior than they were Lake Michigan. So, just that Lake Superior is usually food limited, but the last 2 years it's been a perfect scenario of warm waters, because typically we have cold water that salmon really don't like. But the last 2 years in particular, we've had really good warm water and a whole lot of bait fish swimming around out there. So, those salmon that, typically live 3-4 years, all they were doing was swimming around eating stuff. So it was neat to see that immediate response of cohos and Chinooks taking advantage of that forage source.
Yeah, what's going on with that? I mean, what has happened to create that extra forage there? You said warmer waters.
Yeah.
But what do you think happens with the winter that we've had this year going forward?
Well, a lot of research has been put in really through decades of work on Cisco and why there's a lack of recruitment or consistent recruitment with them. And more recently, looking at this 2022 year class, some of our USGS researchers have noticed that June water temperature has to be cold. It has to be really cold. And that seems to be one of the best indicators of whether or not we'll get a successful recruitment event. And in 2022, that happened. We had really cold June water temperatures. And we got an enormous amount of Cisco production out of that year, which is great. The downside of it is those Cisco grow fast. So right now they're 2 years old. By age 3, the majority of those fish will be 12 inches, 13 inches long, and they'll start to be too big for coho and Chinooks to take advantage of them as a food source. So, they evolved with lake trout, Cisco did. So their, main job in the first 2 years of life is to get as big as they can so they won't get eaten by lake trout. So that's still what they're doing, growing really fast, providing a food source, for 2 years for salmon. And then right now we're looking at maybe one more year of some decent forage out there. And we'll be back to kind of where we were, previous to that big 2022 Cisco boom. Some years in our Silver Bay Salmon Classic up here on the North Shore, the winning Chinook salmon has been 3.5 pounds, right? So especially on the North Shore, we're different than the Apostle Islands. We're different than Thunder Bay. We're about 12 different lakes in one on Lake Superior here. And on the North Shore, where our bathymetry is so steep, we're more like the ocean, where, we're not very productive. We have these big upwellings and currents that create cold water. I've seen it drop from, mid 60s down to the mid 40s overnight up here. So, we're very different on the North Shore. But, lake trout have always been consistent for us. And this year for lake trout in particular, we initial numbers anyway, we're seeing the best year anglers have ever had. Which is great because, we had in our last management plan go round, we discontinued lake trout stocking. And there was, quite a bit of hand wringing from anglers and constituent groups anytime you discontinue a stocking program. But, all of our data and everything showed us that lake trout were on the right path and right on the right trajectory. And that's proven to be the case. We continue even in our surveys to see more and more lake trout over time.
You guys have pretty good natural reproduction there. What do you need for good natural reproduction for lake trout?
A good cobble, gravel, boulder substrate seems to be what they key in on. Some of these nearshore reef areas in Lake Superior, which we have a lot of on the North Shore because, we're primarily bedrock and clay right along the lake. That's why we have these beautiful scenic waterfalls all along our North Shore. So we have pretty much prime lake trout spawning habitat along the entire North Shore, which, shows up pretty much every year in our survey. We get really good recruitment year after year. We've been at steady recruitment with lake trout now for well over 15 years. So we think we've kind of reached an equilibrium where, we've got a big spawning stock out there, and the number of recruits or the number of juveniles that make it from year to year is really dependent on that predatory pressure from adult lake trout, which was really one of the reasons why we quit stocking our lake trout stocking program was what we were seeing was essentially every lake trout we were stocking into the lake was getting eaten by another lake trout. So, anytime you're wanting to make efficient use of anglers' license dollars, you don't want your stocked fish getting eaten by everything else out there.
Yeah, especially the thing that you're planting.
Exactly.
Tell me about that. I mean, I know that your area, North Shore of Minnesota, it is a lake trout area, and that's probably the thing that people, when they go fishing out on Lake Superior in that neck of the woods, 9 times out of 10, that's what you're targeting. We feel like there's been a resurgence in interest in lake trout all over the Great Lakes, but certainly in your area. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I got to throw a plug in for there's a movie called The Fish Thief, and it's about sea lamprey and the Great Lakes and the control of sea lamprey and how it all started. And the story really focuses and highlights Lake Superior's time in this story, in that we were the only Great Lake to retain any wild lake trout population. And just about the time that we found a control mechanism for sea lamprey, they started essentially treating all the rivers and killing off sea lamprey. So we had a good start on rehabilitation because we maintained wild lake trout populations in certain areas of Lake Superior, which helped us to rebuild that and rehabilitate that population through time. So what we see now is, we think we're pretty much, at capacity, or where we've rehabilitated lake trout stocks to what we think they looked like pre-1940. So it's an incredible story of restoration and rehabilitation of, the top native predator in Lake Superior. And the really good thing about that is, we have a few different morphotypes or types of lake trout in Lake Superior. We've got the lean lake trout, which all the anglers go after. We have Siskoet, which are the fat or the deep water form, which aren't really good table fare. And then we've got humpers and redfins, and those are different lake trout on like offshore reefs and out near Isle Royale and that. And having that high biomass of different morphotypes of lake trout really puts downward pressure on our prey fish populations. So it's keeping smelt at relatively low levels. It's keeping a lot of other invasives at low levels. We do have alewife in Lake Superior, but not to the extent that, say, Lake Michigan has alewife. Very localized places, and typically our water is really too cold for good alewife production. Now that might be changing. We've seen this fall, we had seen water temperatures upwards of 60 degrees even into mid-September this year. So, water temperatures are definitely changing on Lake Superior. What's that?
Somebody's just talking behind me.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, water temperatures and changing. It's been great the last couple of years for salmon growth in that, but it could be an issue for alewife coming up if we really don't want to see a resurgence or a increase in alewife populations on Lake Superior. So
yeah, you guys have been putting together, working on updating your management plan. That's something that you built in 2016, and right now that's something you're working on putting together, kind of a new version of that right now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We are, yeah. I can't believe it's been 10 years already. It seems like it flew by. But yeah, it's really what drives all of our operations out of our Lake Superior office here in Duluth. We sit down and work with over 25 different stakeholder groups on, the management strategies for the next 10 years. And looking back at the previous management strategies that we implemented, we'll evaluate that or those strategies, and each plan really builds off the previous plans. So I think we're in a really good spot, with what we've seen for lake trout and Cisco. We have a commercial fishery for Cisco. It's very important down the North Shore of Minnesota. And I think we're really good for our non-native salmon species as well. Steelhead, on the other hand, we've seen about a 60+% drop in steelhead numbers on our Knife River trap here, and it seems to be a lake-wide phenomenon. We talked with some of our counterparts around the lake, and kind of the consensus is we've been stuck in this drought flood cycle for 5, 6, 7 years now, and steelhead seem to be taking the brunt of that. And we've gone from about 1,000+ adult steelhead at the Knife River trap down to about 275 in 2024. So we've seen a pretty big decline in the numbers. We do have a stocking program for steelhead, And we are definitely going to be utilizing that and discussing with our stakeholder groups how best to utilize that stocking program going into the future, knowing what we know now about lake of steelhead populations and kind of the environmental impacts that we've seen. And, a lot of anglers, a lot of folks out there don't really realize how little control managers really have over anything other than, regulations, stocking fish, etc. The environmental conditions really drive a whole lot of what we see out there. So that's something that we can't control. It's more being able to react to.
Yeah, what do you think is going on with steelhead in Lake Superior?
Yeah, I think it's just, it's that drought flood cycle. We had seen some incredible storms from about 2012 on. And it's happened, in some of the worst times of the year, like just post spawn, we've had some huge storms come through and essentially just flood out the rivers. Summertime, and then in the summertime, we'll hit these drought periods where, the Knife River is what we would consider our premier steelhead river. And in some years that drops down to about 3 cubic feet per second flow. Whereas, say, the Brule River in Wisconsin, it's 150 to 300 cubic feet per second all the time. So with our clay and bedrock substrates, we don't have good groundwater influence. We don't have good spring flows. So when we get those periods of no rain and drought, our streams really suffer. And I think that's really been what's going on with steelhead, at least on the North Shore of Minnesota here for the last 10 years.
One of the species that people really get excited about is coaster brookies, and that's something that you guys are working on as well. Tell us about this.
We are, yeah. We've done a lot of genetic work in the last 10 years, looking at brook trout populations on the North Shore here, looking at those big coasters that we see out in Lake Superior, the spawning populations that we see below barriers, and then our above barrier brook trout populations as well, to try to get an idea of where do those big brook trout in the lake come from. Are they spawning in the lake? Are they reproducing in the lake? Are they reproducing below barriers? Or are they just above barrier fish that drop below the waterfalls and head out to Lake Superior because the habitat is so poor below barrier waterfalls for us? So we've seen some really good numbers of coaster brook trout in the last few surveys that we've done, upwards of 20, 22, 24 inches in some instances. Our crews did a really good job this year. We're always trying to do things differently and see if we can get better information. And our crews did an awesome job this year, Nick Peterson, of scheduling some fall time to do some shoreline electrofishing on Lake Superior, and they found incredible amounts of really nice sized coaster brook trout that we didn't know were spawning in nearshore areas of the lake. So that's definitely something in the next 10 years we're going to be looking more at and trying to get some more information. There's nothing better than seeing pictures of anglers with 3-4 pound coaster brook trout that they've caught. It's incredible and people love it. So
yeah, one of the other things that you keep hearing about more and more, and we talked about a little bit on yesterday's show, is forward-facing sonar. And what I see that being used on Lake Superior in your neck of the woods, it's for jigging lake trout. Tell me about what you guys are looking at when it comes to forward-facing sonar and how it affects Lake Superior as a fishery.
Yeah, forward-facing sonar seems to be the hot topic everywhere you go, talking to anglers and fisheries managers. It's really too early right now, I think, to be able to make any really good decisions for us. We need some good data. But what we do know is, using forward-facing sonar is a great tool for targeting lake trout with jigging on Lake Superior. So we're going to be following up here in the next year or so, trying to get some research done on especially post-release mortality. There's been work done previously by Sean Sitar with Michigan DNR and Marquette on post-release mortality of lake trout. And when you get those surface temperatures over 50 degrees, you can see post-release mortality upwards of 40-some%. So, we're talking about the efficiency of using forward-facing sonar, how many fish can be caught using forward-facing sonar, and really getting a good handle and some good data on post-release mortality, right? Because for the past 65 plus years, we worked on rehabilitating those populations of lake trout, and you see some really good numbers from folks using this technology, which is great. I think it's a great tool to get more people on the water, get more people fishing out there and utilizing the resource, but we have to be conservation minded as well when we look at it from a post-release mortality standpoint.
Cory, I really appreciate you joining us tonight, especially on a Saturday night. Anything else that you wanted to bring up before we let you go here tonight?
No, I think we covered a lot of it, you know.
It was good talking to you, and hope you stay warm up there. You got about another month or so of harsh winter, and then things will start to green up.
Yeah, you know, things are timing out pretty nicely here, right about the time this time of year where you need an extension on your ice auger. The boys state high school hockey tournament rolls around, so that starts up tonight. So we'll be all right. We'll be staying warm.
Yeah, stay warm up there, Cory. Appreciate your time and appreciate your insight. I always love to have you on, and thanks again.
Yep, thanks for the invite.
All right, Cory Goldsworthy from the Minnesota DNR, and just about wraps up our show. We got one more guest, and he's hanging out here right in front of the booth at the Greater Niagara Fishing Expo. We'll bring him in right now. He's Captain Richard Brant. Come on in. Looks like you found the cocktail cart.
I did.
It's a nice thing about this show. You got cocktails running around every once in a while, so if you need one, you can get one.
You ain't lying. Is this good right here, Chris?
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. How you been?
Good, man. How are you? Yeah.
Pretty good. Everything's going good.
Yeah, were you on the water today?
Not today. I'm actually out Monday through Saturday.
Monday through Saturday, okay. Yeah. How's things been going? You're fishing. He fishes the Niagara River this time of year. How's things been going on in the river?
It's been pretty good other than the ice.
Yeah.
We actually got winter this year. We were spoiled the last 2 years.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty mild winter besides this year, and there's ice everywhere.
Yeah.
And I fish with a fiberglass boat.
Okay.
So it's a little more challenging for me.
Yeah, Captain Matt Yablonsky was on yesterday, and he's like, it's tough out there with the fiberglass boat.
It's real tough.
Yeah.
I have to pick and choose certain days. I mean, I have to call the town of Lewiston. They come down with a backhoe. It'll open up the ramp for me.
Mm-hmm.
I try to back in the boat as slow as I can and put the motor in gear and blow out the water and just send it. I mean, I just put a new keel guard on my boat, but fiberglass is fine. It's actually a lot stronger than aluminum. It flexes a little more easier.
Mm-hmm.
But when there's skim ice, that's your number one problem with fiberglass boats.
Yeah. Well, what are you chasing after right now?
Steelhead, brown trout, and lake trout. And there's a lot of walleye this year, so we're not really chasing the walleye, but they're left and right. Every drift from Devil's Hole all the way out to the lake. There's walleye in every drift.
How do you fish them?
For what's that, walleye?
Yeah, how do you fish in the river this year? What are you doing?
This time of the year in February, I'm mainly using egg sacks or minnows.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer golden shiners, but right now we can't find them. Every marina is frozen on the upper river, and Lake Erie is almost 100%, 90% frozen. So I'm using a lot of golden shiners, and the steelhead are eating them because there's not a lot of smelt running the river this time of the year. It's so cold.
So you just drifting? Just
drifting. We're using 3-way swivels, 2-ounce pencil sinkers on a T-turn, and I do about a 6-foot lead with a size 12 hook.
Mm-hmm.
And just consistently bouncing up and down, keeping the boat, bow of the boat pointing into the current, on, off. And the fishing's unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, the water's so clear, we don't got to worry about it being dirty this year, but the fishing numbers are going up.
Yeah.
A lot of people think they're going down. I don't think so. I'm having an 8 to 15 fish day, and that's pretty good for beginners on the lower river.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that like for you as a captain? I mean, you take a guy out on a Lake Ontario charter, people that fish once or twice a year. You know, they're not holding the rod. You just hand it to them and coach them, try to have them bring it in nice and smooth. But when you're doing what you're talking about, we're talking about rod and hand fishing.
Yeah.
You actually got to do some teaching there. Tell me about that.
You do. So when I usually launch the boat, I try to take them to an easier drift.
Mm-hmm.
There's a drift known called the High Banks Cliffs. A lot of guys will call it, local guides. It's a little more north of Lewiston boat ramp. It's a slower presentation drift. We use a lot of egg sacks in that drift. It's probably 1 mile per hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll coach them to keep the line straight up and down as possible so your bait's as natural as it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them just ticking bottom. So I don't want them dragging. I want that line just every once in a while touching bottom. I tell guys slowly lift up, slowly come down. Usually on the lift ups, when they have resistance and there's a fish on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're just feeling for that resistance.
Feeling for that resistance. I mean, the water's 31.7 degrees. So it's making ice as it goes.
Yeah.
A lot of these fish, they're lethargic right now. Even the steelhead, they like that colder water. They're not hitting as aggressive as they are in November, December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it like when you tangle with one this time of year?
Like, what's the fight like?
Yeah.
It's like a marlin. It's a freshwater marlin. Usually when they hit the surface, they go batshit and go all over the place. Yeah.
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 So a lot of fun. Steelhead. There's browns out there right now too. I mean, what's when you go out fishing this time of year? What's the mix like?
The more south you go in the river, which is considered Devil's Hole Art Park, northern, like the Canadian drifts, like there's the Queen Station, which if you're not too familiar with, there's a pump house station on the Canadian side. That's mainly steelhead. The farther north you go, that's when you get into your brown trout territory. You're closer to lake. The water's a little calmer, a little slower. It's not warmer, obviously, but there's brown trout hang out more towards the lake. I'm not quite sure exactly why. I think it's more of a structure thing, sandy bottom versus rocky bottom.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but we've been catching browns all the way from Devil's Hole all the way down.
Yeah.
There's fish everywhere. Our brown trout fishery is through the roof this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are people coming from to fish with you?
My main clientele is Pennsylvania. I have a lot of guys from Pennsylvania, and then there's probably 15-20% are from Ohio. I've had people come all the way from, actually, I had a guy from Vietnam one year. I had a guy from Vietnam, I had a guy from Australia. I had a group of guys from South Africa. My customers coming this week are from Long Island, New York. They've been fishing with me for the last 5 years straight. They come for 7 days straight.
Wow.
They're diehard fishermen. They've been fishing the river for 35 years, longer than I've been fishing. I'm only 50 years old.
Yeah.
So they've been fishing a long time.
You got to be a diehard fisherman to want to come out and fish the Niagara River this time of year.
I used to do this full time, and I went back to being a part time and went back to work. I want to get back into it full time, but right now at my age, I don't think I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I love it. I love every minute of it. It's an adrenaline rush. I mean, the hardest part is getting there in the snowstorm, but once you're there, it's absolute riot. When there's 6-8 inches of snow in your boat, it's a complete whiteout. You can't see the next boat next to you. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
So you're doing that right now through the winter. When do you start heading out to the lake and fishing the lake?
I'll start fishing the lake. Well, like you're talking about this year, I'm not going to fish the lake until probably mid-March.
Okay.
Beginning of April, I'll start trolling the shorelines for brown trout, that 15 to 20 foot of water. Well, if there's a mud line, I don't believe we're going to have a mud line this year. So I'm going to hang out in the river until about mid-April. Once the boom gets pulled, I don't think they pull the boom until it's like 200 or 250 miles and ice is gone.
Okay.
Then they'll pull the boom, that warmer Lake Erie water will flow over Niagara Falls, and all that bait will start running the river. So I'm going to wait for them to pull the boom this year. Then I'll go out there and start chasing kings on the bar.
Tell people what that means, pulling the boom.
When they pull the boom, the Niagara Power Authority, they literally have an ice boom that is in the mouth of the Peace Bridge, mouth of Lake Erie where it meets the upper river, right below the Peace Bridge. And they have a, I don't want to say it wrong because people would probably question me. I want to say it's like 20, 25 miles long. It's these big giant steel booms, and it holds the ice because it can damage their turbines to make power from New York City. So once they pull that boom, it'll let the ice flow, and all that warm water that's sitting behind it that's thawed out starts ripping through. And that's where all your bait fish start showing up, and that's when the fishing gets real good.
What's the river like when that boom gets pulled?
It's unreal. It's unreal. The upper river becomes active. Your muskie, your smallmouth, your walleye become active.
Yeah.
You go down the lower river, your steelhead are still in. Your walleye are starting to show up heavy. Your brown trout, your lake trout, you will get bass mixed into it. But a lot of guys, they come here because they want to fish the famous Niagara Bar. The green can, the ledge. The first ledge, there's the trench. It's 70 feet, goes to 13 feet within a hurry. There's salmon, king salmon, cohos, lake trout stack up on there. All them LY and smelter just running in there. There's the current from the lake and the current from the river meeting. Causes wicked undertows, and it's rich nutrients for a lot of bait, and fish just stack there and they eat it all up. And they're hungry all winter. They're sitting on the Canadian side right now waiting to come over. Yeah.
Just waiting for the food to show up.
Waiting for the food to show up. That's it.
It's like me in about 10 minutes. Waiting for the food
You got to
to
get
show
another drink. That's what you got to have.
So you get out there on the lake, getting towards April, May. What's the fishing like for you? Where are you going out of when you go out and fish the main lake?
April and May, I'll launch out of Fort Niagara or Lewiston. I'll still stay there until late May. And I'm out of Wilson Harbor the rest of the summer.
Okay.
I have a trailerable boat. I have a 22-foot nitro. I don't have a lake boat. I bounce between Lake. You would know. I bounce between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. I'm more leaning towards buying a lake boat and staying out of Wilson, because most of my clientele is salmon fishing. Salmon fishing or lower Niagara, but most of my lower Niagara customers, I keep telling you guys got to try salmon fishing in the lake. Stop coming here in October for salmon that are spawning. The salmon fishery is not here as they used to be in the spawning in the 90s, early 2000s. I take them out there in May, and it's a 50 fish day. I mean, and these fish, you can release them. They take off like a missile.
So how are you running your gear that time of year in that May season at Wilson?
So in early May like that, I run 6 to 8 rods, preferably 8. I'll run 2 long lead cores. I do 1 5 color, and I use a newer lead. That's 7 foot per color, salmon speed. So I'm targeting about 2.8 miles per hour on my fish hawk down low. Up top, it all depends on the current. And there's times I'm 4 miles per hour up top, or I'm matching top to bottom. I use a 4 color, 5 color, 6 color. I'll put coho spin doctors on there. They're the orange little spin doctors with peanut flies. And then my downriggers, I'll have green skirt, silver streak lure, mag spoons on my downriggers, and they'll be anywhere from 50 to 60 feet down, almost dragon bottom. And I use 2-wire dipsies, sometimes 4-wire dipsies, one in a 1 setting. That'll be usually 150 out. Then my high diver would be in a 3.5 setting, 265 out. And I just try to cover the column, cover it completely.
Yeah, Wilson's pretty crazy in May.
It's very crazy in May. It tends to slow down in June, but this past June it did not slow down at all.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Tell me about as things normalize, what changes as you get deeper into the summer?
A lot of the fish that are here, a lot of the fish that come from the west, they come east and they keep going. So a lot of these fish here in May, they'll start running towards Rochester, Oak Orchard, they'll go to Oswego, Mexico Bay, all that area, Sodus Bay. They start ripping out that way, and then the lake will flip. Eventually, sometime in June, a lot of the colder water will come up to the top, or warmer water comes up to the top, and the fish will scatter. Now you're on the hunt to find that temperature break. 42 to 46 degree water is usually my go-to, and usually you'll find bait in that. And they could be anywhere from 10 feet below the surface down 100 feet. The fish become scattered, but usually once July, they start showing back up. They start coming on the inside, which we consider the inside from 60 feet to 250 feet. The outside's 250 all the way out to the Canadian line. There is times we have to go way out offshore to go out after fish, and that's mostly in the end of June. That's right after the Niagara Pro-Am tournament. We're mostly, I would say even during the Niagara Pro-Am tournament, we're offshore. We're 400 foot of water fishing the top 60.
When's the tournament?
I think this year it is the second. No, it's actually the last Friday of May, first Saturday of June.
Okay.
That's the Pro-Am tournament.
Are you in it?
I fish with Matt Yablonsky.
Oh, you fish with
Yes,
Matt?
I do. I fish with Matt. Me and Matt are on the team together. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that like?
Well, he's the guy that taught me everything I know.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a headache, and I love him. I love him to death. He's like an uncle. He's one of my best friends. But let him run his program, and I just reel him in.
Yeah.
He's the net man.
A 2-man team?
No, it's me, Matt Yablonsky, just Eric. I forgot Eric's last name. He's from catching. What is it? He's Game Changer Charters, and Dave Scapone was Scapone's Charters as well. And Mike Berry, he's on the team as well, 5-man team. Right. Deal. And it's your first 12 legal fish in the pro division.
Yeah.
And it has to be 15-inch minimum. And so it's your first 12 legal fish. You get 12 fish, you're done. So if you get 12 cohos, but now you're in your boat, you got 12 matures, it's done.
Yeah.
So it's a point system, point versus weight. 1 point per pound, 10 points per fish. And it's a 2-day tournament.
Interesting.
Yep.
How do you put a team together like that? Like what goes into picking your guys?
Me personally, I have a separate walleye team. Like I fish Sunset Bay Shootout. That's the only walleye tournament I like to fish. I guess you got to have guys that are willing to be hard-headed. Guys that aren't scared to risk it. You got to be willing to make big runs and take a chance at the end. It's pretty much like gambling. It's tension. It's a lot of tense. You only got 7 hours to fish. With a charter, you have 7 hours just to get guys their limit. Versus a tournament, you got to run 30 miles west. You got to make it back in time for weigh-in. And it's not we can come back anytime on a charter. We're a little late. But a tournament, no, you got to be in. To pick guys with experience and skill that can handle pressure. And they can handle big water. They fish Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. It's not pond water. It's rough. It's always rough.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to chat about today?
No, I appreciate you inviting me on the show. It's been a long time. I'm willing to take you out fishing whenever these days you want to go. Let's go. I know you wanted to go out for the Kings on the bar. Yeah,
well, we got to figure out something. Really, this time of year, what you're talking about sounds like a blast. But
it is.
Just like everybody else, I got kids stuff going on in the wintertime, and I'm already here for 5 days. It's hard to stick around for a couple more days.
It's hard to go on a boat when it's 2 degrees outside, too.
That's the other thing.
It's a lot of motivation, and there's guys that are diehards. I mean, I get beginners. I get guys that have been doing this longer than I've been alive. Yeah. But everybody, once they come, they love it. They're like, we're really going out in this? Yeah. And it's like, yeah. they were going out, and they love every second of it. And it's a riot,
Yeah.
but it's all up to you to catch the fish.
Yeah.
Trolling, it's all up to me.
Right.
I put out the presentation. For you, you got to be in control of everything on that rod. I just put the bait out there and try to push you in fish.
Yeah.
And you got to, it's consistent up and down. Like I said, it's a riot.
Right.
You got to come out one of these days.
Yeah. We're going to do it. All right, my friend.
Thank you so much. It was nice having you.
Appreciate you coming on to the show, and always fun to talk to you. And just hope everything keeps rocking for you good. And we'll be back here at some point.
Okay, we'll stay in touch, all right?
Awesome. Yeah, you do the same. Captain Richard Brant. Hey, we forgot to ask you. Somebody wants to book you. How do they get a hold of you?
My website, www.realactioncharters.biz.
Okay.
You can look me up on Facebook, Real Action Charters, or just look me up, Richard Brant.
Yeah, you're on Instagram too?
I am. It's Richard Brant, Western New York. I'm sorry, it's Real Action Charters, Western New York.
There you go.
Yep.
He's Captain Richard Brant, and if you want to have some fun out on the Niagara River, he's your guy. So that's it for Saturday here at the Greater Niagara Fishing Expo. Tomorrow, we're going to have a little bit different start time. We're going to have Captain Pete Alex co-hosting tomorrow, and he wanted to start a little bit early, wants to, I think, get out of here a little bit earlier. So we're going to start, instead of starting at 11 o'clock, we're going to start at 10:30 tomorrow. So we're going to go from 10:30 to 12:30 with Captain Pete Alex. We're going to wrap up the show at 12:10 tomorrow with Trevor Sumption from Fishhawk. He's going to join us remotely. Didn't get to make it to the show this year, but he's going to join us remotely. So if you want to talk some Fishhawk, make sure you pop on tomorrow at 10 after 12 Eastern time. We will have Trevor on, but a lot of cool stuff. We're going to have Shane Rubianis on tomorrow as well. A lot of great guests tomorrow. So make sure you join us tomorrow at 12 or 10:30 Eastern time to 12:30. We're going to go, you know what, Jim, just because you popped on again, we're going to give it to you. Jim Rissu, give us a direct message on the Facebooks. Give us your address, and we'll send you out that Fishhawk Electronics swag package. And again, I'll get back to everybody after I get home sometime during the week, and we'll get that sent out to you. So thanks to everybody for joining us tonight. It was a lot of fun, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10:30 Eastern.